Well, hello there. I'm Kieran Zachary. You're watching All 24 News Wellness program live from the capital Algiers. And up next are the top stories. A Palestinian has been killed as the occupation continues violating the Gaza ceasefire. The resistance handed over the body of Hadar Golden, held captive since 2014, and more casualties were reported in the West Bank from the attacks by occupation forces and settlers alike. Coming up next, the Polisario Front hails a strong and decisive response to occupation moves, calling decolonization the only path to peace, and urges Spain to take responsibility for Western Sahara. Also in our news, Arab and European leaders reaffirm strong ties with Algeria, praising its coherent and balanced foreign policy, while Asian nations highlight deep-rooted partnerships. And later on in Sudan, human rights groups accuse the Rapid Support Forces of burning hundreds of bodies to hide crimes. The army says it foiled a plan to target vital areas, while the UN warns of the global impact of the largest displacement crisis in the world. The details are straight ahead. Welcome back. It's great to have you with us tonight. First up in our news, on Sunday morning, a Palestinian was killed when an occupation drone hit Bani Suhaila, east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Occupation forces kept their attacks across Gaza, breaking the ceasefire again. They demolished homes in the central and southern areas, while heavy gunfire hit Gaza City in the north. In another development, Hamas's military wing, Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, handed over the body of occupation soldier Hadar Golden to the Red Cross. He was captured back in 2014. The brigades say they're still committed to returning the remaining bodies, but they need extra teams and equipment to recover 4 more from the 28 still in their custody. In Gaza, 4 weeks after the ceasefire, health workers have kicked off a big vaccination drive to protect tens of thousands of children displaced by months of war. The Palestinian Health Ministry says over 600,000 kids missed out on vaccines during the genocidal war. Karim Mustafawi reports now.
4 weeks after the start of the long-awaited ceasefire in Gaza, a large-scale vaccination campaign began Sunday, targeting about 40,000 children under the age of 3. Health officials describe it as a catch-up campaign designed to shield young children from deadly but preventable diseases that spread quickly in overcrowded shelters amid hunger and a shattered healthcare system.
The vaccination campaign, a catch-up campaign, began today. It's essential for every child who missed vaccination due to displacement and was unable to receive them. We're administering these vaccines according to the schedule prepared for each child. There was a very high turnout on the first day of the vaccination campaign.
Large crowds lined up outside health centers on the campaign's first day. Many displaced Palestinians who fled their homes months ago waited patiently to get their children vaccinated after a month of disruption.
I came to give my son his first month vaccination. Because of the conditions we live in, I was afraid that I would not be able to give my son the vaccinations.
We were supposed to get in the vaccine 10 days ago, but I was delayed because of the displacement. Thank God the ceasefire started and we came and got this vaccine. The 2-month vaccine is important because it protects against 8 diseases.
Health workers say the campaign's first phase will run from 9 to 18 November. According to the Director General of the Ministry of Health in Gaza, this campaign comes in response to the catastrophic humanitarian situation caused by the Zionist genocide, which deprived over 600 children from being vaccinated against polio.
In occupied Palestine, the Palestinian Health Ministry says a young man was killed by occupation forces during a raid on Al-Farah, a refugee camp in Tubas in the northern West Bank, Sunday night. Meanwhile, the Red Crescent reports at least 14 Palestinians were injured when settlers attacked homes and property south of Nablus. Similarly, on Saturday, settlers attacked a group of villagers, activists, and journalists harvesting olives near an outpost south of Nablus. This area has seen repeated settler violence, which has worsened across the West Bank this year, especially during the olive harvest season that began in October.
There were about 50 settlers. For a few seconds I heard Ranin screaming, and a voice near me said they had beaten the journalist. I was moving back and forth. The settlers were just a meter away. They were armed with sticks and sharp tools, and all were masked. I had no choice. If I moved forward, there were 50 settlers in front of me, and behind me a valley, rough terrain. I found myself alone as all the farmers had gone down, so I decided to leave the area. Meanwhile, they were throwing stones at us like I've never seen before. Less than an hour later, we were caught in a monstrous barbaric savage attack, call it what you will, carried out by more than 30 or 40 settlers who attacked us from all sides. I compared it to a zombie attack, like zombies emerging from everywhere, throwing stones and killing.
And at dawn on Sunday, Israeli occupation forces launched a new arrest campaign across towns and villages in the West Bank. Local media say at least 10 Palestinians were detained, including some who had recently been released in a prisoner exchange deal. Meanwhile, Al-Quds governorate says around 830 Israeli settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque on Sunday, protected by occupation forces. They conducted tours, performed Talmudic rituals, and blocked Palestinian worshippers from entering with strict restrictions on access to the old city of Al-Quds. In Samarkand, Uzbekistan, UNESCO's 43rd General Conference has delivered a historic win for Palestine, with member states unanimously adopting 4 key resolutions supporting education, culture, and heritage. Zara Farjani has more.
In Samarkand, Uzbekistan, the 43rd General Conference of UNESCO marked a major diplomatic milestone for Palestine. 4 key resolutions were unanimously adopted by the member states, a move hailed as a historic victory by the Palestinian delegation. The first resolution focuses on the worsening situation in the Gaza Strip. It outlines an urgent action plan to help reduce the devastating impact of the ongoing genocide on education and culture. The second resolution is dedicated to protecting the cultural heritage of the occupied old city of Al-Quds, stressing the importance of safeguarding its historical sites and preserving the city's unique cultural identity. The remaining 2 resolutions call for continued support to educational and cultural institutions in the occupied Palestinian territories, as well as the ongoing programs of UNRWA.
These decisions mark a new victory for Palestinian diplomacy and reaffirmation of the justice of our cause on the international stage. They are not merely symbolic, they provide legal and ethical tools to hold the occupation accountable and to protect the Palestinian people's right to education, culture, and heritage. We call on UNESCO member states and international partners to offer urgent financial and technical support to rebuild schools, restore educational activities, and provide psychological and social assistance to students and teachers affected by the ongoing conflict.
Arab, Islamic, and most participating delegations voiced their full solidarity with Palestine, commending the international consensus achieved and reaffirming their commitment to ending the occupation and securing the sovereign rights of the Palestinian people. But on the ground, challenges remain. The Zionist entity may once again attempt to block the implementation of these decisions, as it has in the past. Behind this consensus lies a deeper struggle, a quiet battle over cultural and narrative power between the preservation of an authentic Palestinian identity and the ongoing Zionist attempts to erase it.
And elsewhere in Lebanon, occupation forces moved north of the Litani River on Sunday using heavy weapons and bulldozers near Nabatea. An occupation drone also struck a vehicle in Marjioun, killing at least one person, according to initial reports. Meanwhile, UNIFIL entered the area with the Lebanese army aiming to extend its control over the border valley between Tolini and Sawana. Moving on to another regional story now, the Polisario Front has praised the Sahrawi response to what it calls Morocco's maneuvers at the UN Security Council, calling it comprehensive and decisive. On the 17th anniversary of the National Prisoners' Day, Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali highlighted Morocco's attempts to undermine Western Sahara's decolonization and lauded the strong, spontaneous reaction of the Sahrawi people.
In recent times, the national cause has witnessed various developments, particularly at the level of the UN Security Council. There have been feverish new attempts by the Moroccan-occupied state, shamefully and regrettably supported by certain well-known parties within the Council, to push through the colonial and expansionist thesis, to disregard the Charter and resolutions of the UN, and to undermine the clear and simple legal status of the question of Western Sahara as a decolonization issue to be resolved through respect for the principle of self-determination.
And on the same occasion, the Sahrawi president stressed that the only solution to the Western Sahara conflict is allowing the Sahrawi people to fully exercise the right to self-determination and independence.
It is the steadfast national position, the position of the resilient Sahrawi people in all their component, their heroic and valiant army stationed on the front of honor and pride, their masses in the occupied territories in southern Morocco, as well as in the camps of dignity and pride in the countryside and among the diaspora through their sole and legitimate representative, the Polisario Front.
In the same context, the Polisario Front says decolonization remains the only way to resolve the Western Sahara conflict. In Sydney, during a film screening marking the 50th anniversary of Morocco's invasion, Polisario's Australian representative Mohammed Fadil Kamal briefed attendees on the UN Security Council extending MONUSCO's mandate. He condemned any attempts to bypass the UN Charter and stressed that a lasting solution depends on letting the Sahrawi people exercise their right to self-determination and independence. On a related note, dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the central government headquarters in Barcelona on Saturday, calling on Spain to take responsibility for Western Sahara's decolonization. Organized by the Polisario Front's Catalonia office, Sahrawi groups and solidarity movements, the protests saw strong turnout from the Sahrawi community and local civil society. The Polisario representative Mohammed Salim Ahmed Labid urged Spain to act and complete the decolonization process. Moving on back home, congratulatory messages continue to pour in for Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune on the 71st anniversary of the country's liberation revolution. Arab leaders, including from Qatar, Kuwait, and the League of Arab States, reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening ties with Algeria. The Emir and Deputy Emir of Qatar sent warm wishes for the President and the Algerian people, while the Secretary General of the Arab League praised Algeria's role in promoting Arab solidarity. Meanwhile, Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema highlighted the deep friendship between the two countries and Algeria's support in areas like education. Similarly, European leaders sent warm congratulations to Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune on the anniversary of the country's liberation revolution. Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Belarus, Malta, and Germany all praised Algeria's coherent and balanced foreign policy. Leaders highlighted strong bilateral ties, readiness to deepen cooperation, and shared goals on regional stability, sustainable development, and Mediterranean partnerships. Germany, Poland, and Slovakia emphasized expanding collaboration, while Belarus called Algeria a model of effective international cooperation. On the same occasion, several Asian countries sent warm congratulations to Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune on the anniversary of the Liberation Revolution. Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand all reaffirmed their confidence in the deepening of ties with Algeria. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto highlighted 6 years of strong cooperation. Singaporean President Tharman Shanmugaratnam sent his best wishes for peace and prosperity, and Thailand's Prime Minister Anotim Charnvirakul emphasized 50 years of diplomatic relations and his eagerness to strengthen cooperation across sectors. Moving on to another topical development, the Sudanese Doctors Network has condemned the Rapid Support Forces for burying hundreds of bodies in mass graves and burning others in Al-Fasher. Spokesperson Mohammed Faisal Hassan al-Sheikh told All24 News Channel that these actions are an attempt to cover up crimes against civilians, calling what's happening in Al-Fasher a new chapter in a full-scale genocide.
Satellite images reveal that rapid support forces are clearing the mass graves outside the city of North Kordofan. Meanwhile, in North Darfur State, reports indicate that the RSF is now attempting to erase evidence of the massacres committed at the Saudi hospital.
The Sudanese Doctors Network describes the situation in Al-Fasher as tragic, urging immediate international action. Spokesperson Mohammed Faisal Hassan al-Sheikh says residents are facing extortion, forced to pay to secure the release of their families.
The city was completely surrounded by militants, and we were hoping that humanitarian organizations would intervene to prevent the situation from worsening. On the first day, we managed to evacuate the city of Al-Fasher. 6 medical staff were rescued from the hospital, 4 of them doctors, 1 an organizational leader, and the other fishermen. We successfully evacuated Al-Fasher and remain in contact with many people still there. We hope the situation will improve and that we will be able to complete the evacuation safely.
Meanwhile, a Sudanese military official says there are no RSF troops in the northern state. The commander in Marawi told local media that the army foiled an RSF plan to attack the city and has reinforced defenses to protect key areas against any aggression. For its part, Sudan's foreign ministry says it has no objection to a humanitarian truce, but with conditions. Media advisor Amar al-Arki told Sputnik that the army won't agree until RSF forces fully withdraw from cities and civilian sites, like hospitals, and displaced people can also safely return. These are the same conditions set by Darfur's governor for any truce. In the same context, over 3,000 families have been displaced from Al-Fasher to Tawila in North Darfur, facing urgent shortages of food, medicine, water, shelter, and psychological support. The UN says Sudan is now experiencing the world's largest displacement crisis, with 12 million people forced from their homes. Meanwhile, OCHA warns of a new cholera outbreak and says millions remain in desperate need as civilians and aid workers continue to be killed with impunity. Sudan's Minister of Human Resources, Mu'tasim Ahmed Saleh, says the poverty rate has jumped from 21 to 71% during the ongoing war. Speaking in Port Sudan, he added that widespread destruction in rural areas has left more than 21 million people facing acute food insecurity. And in another news story, Russian authorities say Ukrainian strikes on energy facilities have left over 20,000 people without power in border regions. In Belgorod, networks were heavily damaged, causing outages across the city, while in Kursk, a fire at a power station cut electricity to 10 towns. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry says its forces captured the town of Rybnoy in Zaporizhia and repelled 6 Ukrainian attacks from the Kharkiv region. Still in Europe, Britain's top military officer Richard Knighton says the UK has sent defensive equipment and personnel to help Belgium deal with drones violating its airspace. In a TV interview, he added that NATO has no proof of Russian involvement, but member states are providing all necessary support to their ally, Brussels.
We would be prepared to support them, and the Defence Secretary and I agreed at the end of last week that we would deploy our people and our equipment to Belgium to help them. It is important to be clear, though, that we don't know, and the Belgians don't yet know, the source of those drones, but we will help them by providing our kit and capability, which has already started to deploy to help to Belgium.
In France, a new human rights report is sounding the alarm, highlighting persistent issues of discrimination, surveillance, and migrants' rights. A look at how the country stands today under scrutiny, I'm saying. Here's Sofiane Kinturi.
France has seen a strong rise of the far right in recent years, with immigration becoming a constant target in politics and media. But behind the debates, migrant workers are suffering from a failing system. A new report by Amnesty International says France's residence permit process is dysfunctional and unfair. Many workers from Africa and Asia, even those living legally in France, are pushed into poverty and exploitation. Since the move to online applications in 2020, many have struggled to renew their papers. The system often crashes, appointments are impossible to get, and some wait months or years. Without valid documents, they lose their jobs and social rights. Employers take advantage of their situation. Amnesty reports cases of forced labor, stolen wages, discrimination, and even violence. Fear of losing their permits keeps many silent. The 2024 immigration law made things worse, making it harder to get or renew papers. Amnesty calls for a full reform of the system and for residence cards valid for at least 4 years to protect workers and reduce abuse.
And for the 15th time since 1981, the U.S. government has shut down. Lawmakers in Washington failed to strike a deal to keep the lights on, and this time the fight is all about healthcare. Salman Nasib reports.
In Washington, the blame game is in full swing as Republicans and Democrats point fingers over the latest government shutdown. Vice President J.D. Vance says Democrats are holding the budget hostage, demanding billions for health care benefits for undocumented immigrants.
What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to health care funding for illegal aliens. That is what has actually happened. To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats supported opening the government.
After weeks of deadlock, senators only started serious talks late this week. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned the economic fallout is already snowballing, and the longer this goes on, the worse it gets.
We've seen an impact on the economy from day one, but it's getting worse and worse. We had a fantastic economy under President Trump the past 2 quarters, and now there are estimates that the economic growth for this quarter could be cut by as much as half if the shutdown continues.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy also raised alarms, saying the shutdown could cripple holiday travel if it drags on. He warned that flight operations could slow to a trickle as Thanksgiving approaches, blaming air traffic controller shortages made worse by missed paychecks.
Yesterday, we had 81 staffing triggers with air traffic controllers across the airspace. You reported there was a whole slew of cancellations and delays across the airspace. That trend line is getting worse, right? More controllers aren't coming to work day by day. The further they go without a paycheck because Democrats refuse to pay them.
Also be other things.
And while the capital remains divided, President Trump took to Truth Social, slamming the Affordable Care as the worst health care for the highest price. He called on Republicans to redirect federal funds away from insurance companies and send that money directly to Americans instead.
And now it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines and the news in brief with Sofian Kinturi.
The Libyan High Council of State met Sunday in Tripoli to review the agreement reached with the House of Representatives on appointing candidates for key sovereign positions, reaffirming support for a consensual political roadmap leading to elections. It also clarified that its rejection of some House laws targets only those deepening division or violating the political agreement, while reiterating its full support for the prisoners' rights and efforts to improve their living conditions as a foundation for national stability and solidarity. Divisions within the European Union have deepened over using frozen Russian assets to aid Ukraine militarily and economically. Several member states oppose the move as illegal, while others urge a balanced approach that upholds international law and preserves European solidarity with Kyiv amid ongoing debates over the bloc's response to Russia. Amid a surge in crime, Peru's government announced new measures under the state of emergency in Lima and nearby areas, boosting prison control, digital surveillance, and coordination among agencies. The steps include stricter prisoner visits, motorcycle passenger bans, tighter ID checks, and faster deportations after homicides rose from 1,502 to 1,690 this year. The Japanese Meteorological Agency issued a tsunami warning Sunday for Iwate Prefecture after a magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck off Sanriku's coast in northern Japan. Tsunamis up to 20 centimeters were recorded in Kuji and Ufunatu and 10 centimeters in Miyako and Kamashi, prompting residents to avoid coastal areas.
And that was Yasin Arikti reporting. Well, that's the end of our news for tonight. Thank you for watching and take care.